MIT.
It is remarkable that this same president, who actually said in January, when his staff was actually warning him that 500,000 Americans could die, and weeks after, he started to get warnings from the State Department, from the Pentagon, from his intel briefings every day. He said, this was on January 22nd, going to be one person coming in from China. And it was all taken care of. Even a month later, after all of those warnings started to become more public, that's when the president said it was 11 people and it was going to be down to 0. 15 people was going to be down to 0. It's going to go away magically. So now Jonathan Lemire, who's with us. Now Jonathan Lemire, AP White House reporter. The president's saying that it's just a few people. It's just a small percentage, a very, very small percentage, which is remarkable. Nobody said that after 9/11. Nobody said the 57,000 deaths in Vietnam was a small percentage. Nobody said that deaths in Korea were just of young Americans was just a small percentage. But here we are, 90,000 dead. And Mika brings up a good point. If the president really wants to get into the percentage game, the United States has about 4.25% of the world's population. Very soon, more than 1 in 3 deaths from COVID-19 will come from the United States. The United States has 4.25% of the world's population. Very soon, even as we move towards opening up, very soon, 1 in 3 infections in the world will come from the United States of America, not third world countries, not from countries that we usually look down upon as far as being inferior medically, inferior when it comes to technology, inferior when it comes to science. No, the United States of America, little over 4% of the population, very soon will be responsible for 1 out of 3 deaths in the world for the coronavirus. The numbers are absolutely staggering, Jonathan, and they just beg every day the question, how did this White House, and yes, I will say it, how did some governors get this so wrong?
Oh.
Well, I think there are 2 things at play here, Joe, in terms of the president's response. First, as we know, he's never been comfortable or effective in that role as sort of consoler-in-chief, one to show empathy for the loss of Americans, those who have sick or have died or have lost their jobs. And, you know, he struggled with that in previous crises or tragedies in his administration, hurricanes, wildfires, and we're certainly seeing it very, very acutely here with the pandemic. He's never been able to sound the notes that I think a lot of Americans hope to hear from the Oval Office. In fact, so many Americans turned to hear his predecessor, Barack Obama, speak over the weekend in an address to graduates that was carried online and on TV. And secondly, of course, beyond that, there's just this president's instinct to downplay, to push the blame at others, and to suggest this crisis is not as bad as the numbers would bear out. And that's largely informed by, of course, his eye towards November, his eye towards re-election. And you know, he's very dismissive of the idea put forth of the signs that were missed, the timeline that you lay out on this show, the fact that this nation could have moved sooner. And there's a lot of finger pointing. And just yesterday, Peter Navarro, one of his top advisors, went on one of the Sunday morning talk shows and really put a knife into the CDC and blamed them for the ineffective first tests done back earlier this year.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Because I'm confused.
Of course.
I'm a simple country lawyer. Sometimes, it takes me a while to figure things out. Who runs the CDC? Who is that under the Obama administration, the CDC, or is this Nancy Pelosi's CDC, or who appoints the head of the CDC? Who's in charge of the CDC? What Washington official is in charge of appointing the CDC director and running the CDC?
Joe, I don't have the org chart in front of me, but I think we can safely say it's not President Obama or House Speaker Pelosi, but rather President Trump.
So this is Donald Trump's CDC. Donald Trump's CDC, where Donald Trump went down and actually talked to the CDC on March the 6th and said every American that wants a test can have a test, and talked about what a great doctor he was. And he, you know, I'm kind of good at this. I have a relative who once went to MIT. I'm kind of good at this. That's when he was saying this was going away magically, that this would go away magically in April. But so that's what I don't get. Peter Navarro, who, man, I wish he'd listened to Peter Navarro back in January when Navarro said 500,000 souls could die from this in America. But when Peter Navarro's attacking the CDC, Peter Navarro's attacking, wait for it, Donald Trump. That'd be like me saying, man, did you see that segment on Morning Joe last week? That really sucked. That was a failure. What a horrible segment on Morning Joe that was. I would be attacking myself. Peter Navarro's at the CDC. That's all up to Donald Trump. He appointed Redfield. Did he not? I think he appointed Redfield. Did he appoint Redfield?
Dr.
Yes.
Redfield.
He did. Okay, thank you.
I believe that he did, Joe. But
thank you. You may sit down now. Thank you, witness. Now go ahead. Go ahead. Tell us, Jonathan. Give us this background on this strange and mystical organizational chart that is convoluted and is circuitous from Donald Trump to the CDC. Oh, wait a second. It's a straight line from Donald Trump to the CDC. It is Donald Trump's CDC that failed. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.